Hey, this is WhyBeAre with BeamNG.drive, and today we're going to be taking a look at the BeamNG VarietyMod, which adds a ton of vehicles to the game that are based on the vehicles that are already in the game. Now right now, the only vehicle mod I have installed is this one, so it's really easy to tell which vehicles came with the game and which ones came with the mod. All you need to do is look at the thumbnail. If the thumbnail has a little BeamNG logo on it, then it's an official vehicle that came with the game. If it doesn't have a logo, like this one, then it's a vehicle that came with the mod. Now as you can see, there are a lot of vehicles that came with this mod, so there's no way I can make a video that covers all of them in any reasonable amount of time. So instead, I'm just going to show you some of my favorite vehicles from the mod. We're going to start off with the Barstow, and I want to show you guys the Barstow drift machine. Even though everybody knows WhyBeAres can't drift, I'm going to try to drift anyways. Now, most of the mods have pretty good descriptions. This one is no exception, so I'm going to go ahead and read this to you. With a combination of rear-wheel drive and a powerful engine, the Barstow made an excellent muscle drift car contender. Powered by a Stage 1 supercharged 423 cubic inch V8, lowered and stripped, and put on clockwise 533 wheels, the drift machine Barstow is meant to go sideways, all while looking powerfully aggressive. And if I want to keep that powerful, aggressive look, I guess we should keep the black color. Neat thing about this thing, though, is you could drift to like any speed. Like, we're going like 5 miles per hour when we started drifting right there, and yeah, you could totally do that. The thing is, you won't stay going at 5 miles per hour. You'll end up going 50 by the time you're done with the drift, and I'm going to actually go real slow through here, and I could try to do a really fancy drift, but it would just fail. So instead, I'm going to take it nice and easy to go in the direction I want to go, which is over into here, because I like drifting through this area more than the normal track, just because you got some more corners. It's a little bit lower speed, makes it a little bit easier to control for me, because I need all the help I can get. Now, this thing is rear-wheel drive. I know some people have these all-wheel drive drift cars. Those are poser drift cars, man. If you use an all-wheel drive to drift, it's like, well, that's not drifting. You got the front wheels keeping you aligned. Rear-wheel drive or bust, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using an all-wheel drive drift car, but you can't say I'm as good as a drifter as somebody who uses an exclusively rear-wheel drive one. It's just different. Like, all-wheel drive, you just slam the accelerator down, you're good. Rear-wheel drive, you gotta control this thing like I'm trying to do right here. Now, no real huge drifts or anything right there, because I just wanted to stay under control and didn't want to spin out, which is what I did. But you can see, very easy to get this thing sideways. Oh, I forgot how this corner goes. Good enough. Good enough for not remembering how a corner goes. That was a pretty good outcome right there. I had to really slow down, but I'll take it. All right, so now let's go and just crash this thing. Like, say, I'm drifting. Oh, no. Tap. Hey, that's the good of a crash you can get. Like, if you crash that in a drift car, that's totally okay, because your car's going to be mostly fine. It's not what I wanted to do, but it's kind of funny. I just thought I was going way faster than I was. Turns out, no, I was just spinning the wheels really hard. All right, floor it, and then we're going to just slide into the wall again. This time we'll actually do some damage, hopefully. There we go. Oh, on the wall. Okay. Yep, that's... Oh, well, sure, I'll take that. Wasn't the way I was supposed to go, but I will take that. Next car we're going to be taking a look at is a Burnside Special V8 race car number 8. The fabulous Burnside is a Burnside Special race car from the 50s. It's equipped with a 313 cubic inch V8 race engine, which was exclusively produced for Burnside and their race cars. Now, this thing has a couple of unique parts to it that I like. One of them is the red wheels, which sounds really tacky, but for some reason it looks okay on a 50s race car. And you can tell the design of this car is straight out of the 50s. It's not a modern race car in a 50s body. This is a race car from the 50s. Now, the inside also has a custom part where the door panels are stripped. And as far as I can remember, that is not a part you can normally get on the Burnside Special. That is exclusive to this mod. Although, kind of funnily, actually, the floor mats are still there. Like, I'm going to strip the weight out of the door panels, but I don't want to mess up my floors. So we're going to keep the floor mats there. Now, as the description said, it also has a custom engine. And you can see it's faster than a normal Burnside, but modern-day sports cars will tear this thing apart. And kind of interestingly, it doesn't handle quite the way I expected. I figured for a car in the 50s that's a race car, it'd be really hard to handle. It's actually really easy to handle, but it is pretty understeer prone. Like, this thing, if you want it to oversteer, you're going to have to hit the e-brake, because it will not oversteer on its own unless you really do some crazy stuff. And by the way, if you don't know the difference, because I always get comments that don't know the difference, understeer is when you churn and your car keeps going straight. Oversteer is when you churn and your car spins like that. Just in case you didn't know, now you do know. And that is a very, very simplified description, but it should be enough to help you understand what I mean when I say a car is prone to oversteer or understeer. Right there, you saw I had to use the e-brake for it to do that. Otherwise, it simply wouldn't have. I mean, you can even just tap the e-brake as you go around a corner to get it to corner a little bit tighter, and it seems to work out okay. And I think now it's time for a crash that's going to be more successful than the last one, hopefully. It's going to be just straight into a wall, basically, because I don't want to take any risks. There we go. Wheel axle broken, radiator damaged, car's on fire, but it can still put power to the rear wheels. So don't stop. Keep going. It is on fire, right? Yeah, I see a little bit of fire. Oh, wasn't looking where I was going. And there goes a tire. Again, though, that won't stop the car. Okay, yes, it will. Let's go ahead and swap this car out. Well, actually, you know what? Instead of swapping the car, let's swap the map, then swap the car. So let's just head on to a normal map like East Coast, USA. This is a much more appropriate environment for the next vehicle we're going to be taking a look at, which is a 200BX. Now, as you can see, there are a lot of 200BX variants available to you. The one we're going to be taking a look at is the iTech Custom, but we got to work our way here. First, we have the iTech Z, which is powered by a 2.2-liter iTech Z engine. This 200BX pulls out about 200 horsepower with natural aspiration. Then we have the iTech ZS. This is the fastest naturally aspirated iTech 200BX that has ever been built. The S in its name stands for sport. In fact, with some modifications added to the engine and a suspension that has normally been used by race cars only, this 200BX brings true motorsport feelings to the street. Then we have the iTech Custom, which is a modified 200BX iTech ZS with a Nomi RX32 turbocharger and retro tuning elements like Wangan RS rims and a Legno Classic steering wheel. Now what I'm getting at here is I really like how first they said, all right, let's make an iTech Z model. Then they said, let's make an iTech ZS model that's based on the Z. Then we have an iTech Custom that's based on the ZS iTech. I just really like the way it builds on the vehicles and gives story to them like that. Anyways, iTech Custom. Now this thing has a couple of actually custom parts to it. One of them is that bumper, which looks the same as a normal bumper, right? At first I thought it was the same, but it's actually different. I'm going to spawn up another one just so you can do a quick comparison to show you the difference. Now on a normal 200BX, it has an extra air intake right up there by the lights, whereas the 200BXs that have the iTech engine have a smoothed out front bumper. Another thing this mod adds is the ability to have an offset license plate like this car has. And kind of interestingly, that's the only one that has that. You would think a couple of them would, but just that one. And that is available on both the iTech front bumpers and the normal front bumpers. And I'm not actually going to drive the iTech Custom. I just wanted to pull that one out because it had that bumper and it had a cool story behind it. The one we're actually going to be driving is going to be the Type LS Turbo Okude Edition. Hopefully that's how you say that. If not, oh well. Japanese wheel manufacturer and car tuner Okude, if it's right or not, I don't know, took the Type LS and modified it into a street racer, equipped with body-colored trim, a front splitter, black Okude KWS wheels, and a high-pressure Stage 1 turbocharger. How many times are they gonna make me say it? The Okude Edition 200BX quickly became a street legend. The number, I gotta say it again, of Okude 200BXs produced is unknown. So it's all mysterious, like how many are there? Who knows? This might be the only one left in the world. Let's crash it! Terrible, terrible idea. And I just wanted this one because it's a little bit more balanced than the iTech Custom. The iTech Custom feels like there is way too much engine and suspension for the wheels. And it just kind of is not pleasant to drive. This one's pretty pleasant to drive. Oh no, we're gonna crash my only car in the world. And it's on fire. There may or may not be the last one. Nobody knows because nobody knows how many were made. I was so distracted with crashing the last of its kind, I forgot to show you how it drives. Now the way it drives is very matching with the description, as in it's a little bit more of a handful than most stock vehicles would be, but it's still a streetable vehicle, which is exactly what the description promised you, basically. And I'm driving it through the town. I don't know why. You gotta go so slow through the town, it's kind of boring. But I like to imagine my guy, he thought he crashed the very last one of these, and then he learned there's one more in Japan that still exists, so he found a way to buy it and import it all the way over to East Coast USA just to wreck it. Although it's left-hand drive, so I guess it probably wouldn't have been imported from Japan. But anyways, this guy, he just has some sort of vendetta against this company. He's like, I'm gonna wreck their last one. And that is exactly what we're gonna do. He puts his life on the line because he hates the company that much. Nobody quite knows why, but it was later learned that he was laid off by the company 10 years ago, and he has never forgiven them. So he wrecks their cars all the time. Alright, so I think that about covers what we're going to do with this one. I'm going to go ahead and just remove the vehicle and go back to this one. And now we're going to be taking a look at the ETK 800 series. And the one we want to look at is the 854TXV package. And we're going to put this in white because the style of this car looks really good with the white. Now, the 854TX was released with an optional limited edition victory package for the 2016 model year, celebrating 100 years since the founding of ETK and its many victories in motorsports over the years. Included in the package was body-colored rear bumper trim, special interior and gauge lighting, the TT Sport luxurious stitched leather interior, and decals in the official ETK Motorsports colors. And those decals just look so much better in white, as I said. So there's the decal, very BMW-esque with the colors there. Now, one thing I really like about this is the interior, though. The gauge lighting looks so nice in this one. Like the ETK logo up there, that's custom, but all the colors in the gauges were like reworked and it looks so much better than a normal one. So a normal one, like the Sport Safety Car, that one has the normal interior. Let me show you what that looks like. Normal gauge lighting. How boring! V package? Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like that looks way better than the stock one, and it's just kind of like the stock one didn't look bad until you saw the V package one, and that one's like, wow, that one looks so pretty. I like that one way better. Now the actual performance though isn't really different than an 854TX, so not really anything worth doing there. So we'll just kind of hopefully flip it or crash it or something. There you go. Going back to the safety car, one cool thing about this is a light bar on top, which is custom made for the vehicle. So it lights up, it says ETK safety car on it. I thought that was pretty neat. Next vehicle we're going to be taking a look at is the ETK K-Series. Now this one we want to look at the KC6TX Victory Package. And once again, we're going to put it in white because it matches up best with white. So this is a unique K-Series Victory Package that was available for a limited time, alongside with the V-Chip, all-wheel drive, and a modified suspension to guarantee a true supercar feeling. The V-Pack has wider track, tinted taillights, and an ETK Motorsports decal, which makes it a visually stunning coupe. And I'll go ahead and spawn up both one with the tinted taillights and one without it so you can see the difference between the taillights that work really good and the taillights that work only okay. I mean, tinting taillights, why would you ever really do that? Why would a manufacturer do that stock? That just seems wacky. Actually, you know what? I got an even better idea. Why don't I just swap one of the taillights to be the non-tinted one? That's an even easier way to tell the difference because I had a red car, which would make it really difficult to see the difference. But here, you can pretty easily see that there is a difference, but it's not that big. Now, as for performance, it does feel like a step up above from the KC6TX. Hopefully that's the right model. It's kind of hard to remember that, but it does feel like a step above it. So we can get up to like 130 before we crash it going down this road. And when we do crash it, boy, will it be violent. Uh-oh, I'm losing speed. Doesn't matter. There's the crash. And that has actually totally ruined the car. We don't even have a running engine. Wow, I stretched it. My ETK stretched version. So we'll just pull this back a little bit. And the next car we're going to be taking a look at is the Grand Marshal. Now, the only one I want to look at here is the V8 Riviera Retro because it is so hideous. It's a limited edition Grand Marshal designed to look like a classic car with smoothie hubcaps, white wall tires, chrome trim, and a special paint job. And it's like, I could totally see a manufacturer actually doing this. Boy, does this thing look tacky, especially with red. It looks even more tacky in red. And those wheels, oh my goodness, what are they thinking? But again, I could see a manufacturer being crazy enough to try to sell something like this. I mean, the PT Cruiser was a huge success, and look at that thing, ugh. Anyways, the next thing we're going to be taking a look at, Covets. There's actually a few Covets I want to look at. One of them, the 1.5 turbo Kyosokuna. Somebody tell me how badly I mispronounced that because it is very bad. So the 1.5 turbo is the rarest Covet that has ever been produced. Only 50 units left the production hall. And probably half of them have been wrecked by now. So let's wreck the other half, right? Now, a couple of neat things about this one. It has a custom front and rear label on it. So it says the name right there. And I believe the grill on it might also be custom. You also have that license plate positioning, which is custom to it. And then again, on the back, you got the name. Performance of this thing is real nice. It's kind of, you know, the Type R equivalent type of performance. It's very well balanced. And it just feels pleasant to drive. I like cars that are pleasant to drive like this one. Like, you don't have any worries about it spinning out. And it's just easy to drive while still being able to go around corners at pretty good speeds. Off-roading with the 1 of 50 car. Let's go. Oh, no. We got in the air. There goes my 1 of 50 car. It's now on fire. Bring it back a lot. I get off of that road, and then we're going to take a look at the next one I wanted to take a look at, which is a race version. It is the Touring number 18. The front-wheel drive Ibishu Touring Cup, FITC, was a championship only for front-wheel drive Covets and Pessimas, and very famous during the 80s and 90s. This Covet belonged to the official Ibishu race team Japan and was driven by T. Motegi and M. Hirasawa. I just like the way this thing drives. There's something about front-wheel drive race cars where you could just drag yourself along going through corners in ways that just doesn't quite feel right for a front-wheel drive car. And that's why I like them, because it's just pushing the limits of that kind of drivetrain setup. And although it's usually never going to be as good as a rear-wheel drive, except for like very specific circumstances, they are fun to drive, unlike the normal economy versions of front-wheel drive vehicles. And well, it is fast. I mean, we're going about 100 miles per hour through here, and the transmission's actually holding me back a little bit by not upshifting. I mean, I can't exactly blame it because I think it just doesn't quite have the traction to put all that power down when I'm cornering, so it's not 100% the transmission's fault, but still, fun to drive. And that's all I'm going to do because it's too easy to drive that. Let's get something much harder to drive. And by much harder, I mean much harder. The Pro front-wheel drive Drag. It's the most powerful front-wheel drive car that has ever been built. Everything it does is going fast on the straight, and it's pretty good at that, but absolutely awful at everything else, which is what makes it hilarious. Now this thing, it spins the wheels like mad. And then when you try to go around a corner, it just flips over. Like, the suspension is so wacky to try to put the power down to the front wheels that it makes it absolutely impossible to actually drive it. And it's just hilarious. Like, you try to take this thing around a track, it is a death wish. Like, the tires in the back are so thin. The tires in the front are like these massive, super grippy things. Like, it is a purpose-built vehicle. But when you take it out of its comfort zone, it is hilarious to drive. But you can see, I mean, it's fast. Like, if you trust the speedometer, we're almost going 200 miles per hour through here. I don't know how trustworthy that is, but the second you try to do any sort of cornering, it doesn't really churn. It just flips over. Which is just, it's hilarious to drive it. Like, I enjoy driving this because of how dumb it is to try to drive. Like, you're not going to keep it flat. It's like, oh, corner, we're crashing. I mean, yeah, you could go slow through the corner and not flip over like you would in real life. But where's the fun in that? Anyways, let's go ahead and swap out the map again. So let's just head over to, let's go Utah, USA. Next up is Ibishu Pessima. Now, you thought the 1.8 DX was boring. Guess what? There's an even more boring version of the Pessima, the 1.8 DX base. Now, the only real difference here is that this one has unpainted bumpers. As far as I know, they deform the same as the normal ones, but they have no paint. They're just black. Next up, Ibishu Miramar. There's this one called the Insane. It's a junkyard racer, a Miramar with lots of power, horrible aged suspension, a scratched and rusted paint job, and missing parts. It may not be pretty, but the Insane is a ton of fun for any adrenaline junkie. And the thing I really like about this is the suspension. Like, the suspension on this thing is so awful that it's kind of fun to drive it, because it's like, this thing, why would the suspension be like this? But it's not made to be like this. The suspension happened to get like this over time. It's just, the way it drives just doesn't feel right. That's the only way to really describe it. Like, it just does not feel right. It feels way bouncy and soft, but at the same time kind of too stiff. It's just the weirdest feeling suspension ever. Like, right there, what is the suspension doing? It's trying to drift, maybe? I don't know. Also, there's a paint job that makes it look like it's all dented up, which I thought was pretty neat as well. Anyways, let's go ahead and actually dent this thing up. Well, that's barely denting it all, but there you go. There's a dent. I didn't say I would destroy it, just a dent. So I'll bring it back to spawn. And the next one we're going to be taking a look at is the Moonhawk. Now, for the Moonhawk, there's a V8 race car number 73, which is now a museum piece. This stripped and supercharged Moonhawk won numerous races and quickly became a racing legend. So we're getting this museum car, and we're taking it out into the desert to go at not that high speeds, because I want to destroy a museum piece. Who am I kidding? Yes, I do want to destroy a museum piece. We're taking it to high speeds. Now, this thing is kind of like the Burnside special we were looking at earlier, where it understeers a lot more than you would expect. So you actually, tap that e-brake to get around these corners a little bit better. Going right into the dirt with this super rare race car, trying not to crash into the rocks, and we crashed into the rocks. So now it's basically worthless, so we can go as fast as we want to, right? That's how it works. You get a small dent, the car's totaled, so you might as well just floor it and destroy it. Which is exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to actually fly a little bit right here because we have a little bit of a jump. And then a splat. And is it going to drive still, actually? As far as I know, it should be able to still put down power, but it's upside down, which is inconvenient, so we'll just move on to the other Ibishu Pessima. And this one has a neat one. It's the 2.0R, which has a huge description. Just looking at this, it's going to take me a second to read it. The success of the Pessima as a rally car helped boost sales of the Pessima and inspired Ibishu to release this limited edition model. The Pessima R was a rally-ready street car equipped with Ibishu TWE wheels, rally-tuned suspension, raised ride height, all-wheel drive, rally lights, mud flaps, a turbocharged 2.0-liter inline-4 engine, and a high-performance radiator. The Pessima R was only offered with a manual transmission, keeping with rally standards. Ibishu advertised the car as a rally-ready street car, claiming only a roll cage and skid plate were needed to make it a qualified rally car. Only 1,000 units of the Pessima R were produced. Huge description there. Gotta take a breath right there. And one thing that's neat about this one is actually it has custom taillights that are red entirely. The normal Pessima doesn't have all red taillights. And then we also have that offset license plate once again as an option. And we're going to do stupid off-roading. Now, you don't get a rally car and do this with it normally. But we're doing it because that's the easiest way to get to some actual dirt roads to do rally-like driving on. There we go. That worked perfect. It actually received no damage in terms of drivability. Like, I don't think the bumper scraping every now and then is going to be that big of an issue for how the car controls. And this thing really does feel pretty similar to the regular rally version of the Pessima, but it just doesn't have the fancy paint job or the roll cage or the skid plate. So it's a death trap compared to the other rally one, basically. And, okay, we're still good. Wait, a little bit of a pull, I think. Let me get on a flatter surface and see. So we're pulling a little bit to the left, but keep driving it, and this time we'll just go for the crash. Oh, I can't go. Okay, there's a crash. That counts. Next up is a rear-wheel drive Pessima. It is the stock car version, and this is the official Ibishu Pessima stock car. The stock car reaches up to 320 kilometers per hour with its turbocharged i4 engine. Now, quick conversion for kilometers to miles per hour. That's just under 200 miles per hour. Now, this thing's gearing is also kind of funny. Like, at the start, I'm flooring it right here, and it's 0 to 60 time is probably just as long as it's 60 to 100 time, because it's just so slow. And then once you get going, it gets into the power, and you start moving. So I'm pretty sure we could get this thing up to like 120 miles per hour before we get to the bridge right here. It's that fast. And I love the fact that it's rear-wheel drive. Like, it's just like a real stock car. Ibishu would never sell an actual rear-wheel drive version of the car, but the stock car is rear-wheel drive. So not quite 120, only about 110, and I just grazed the trees right there, and the car is barely damaged. I mean, for a crash that was at over 100 miles per hour, you would expect a lot worse outcome than that. So we'll go ahead and bring it back, and then go in the opposite direction. Then we can go even faster. Just got to deal with this really, really long gearing. All right, so going this way, we should be able to get 150. I'm banking on 150. But right here, I'm flooring it, and then there's the power as the turbo starts to kick in. And once the turbo's going, you're gone. I mean, you could, of course, you know, just rev up the engine and dump the clutch, but I like how it just takes so long to accelerate. It's kind of funny. All right, so not 150, but 130 right into those rocks, and a good amount of damage on that. But that roll cage really enforcing itself on this car and making sure it at least stays somewhat intact for where the driver would be dead, because that was such a hard impact. You're not going to live that. Anyways, next car we're going to be taking a look at is a Pigeon, and it is the GRX. This custom Pigeon is equipped with a modified suspension, race tires, and the Ibishu GRX 654 Superbike engine. And this thing is surprisingly stable. Like, I'm used to being scared of a Pigeon thinking it'll tip over at any time. This one doesn't really do that feeling. Like, I'm going in that corner pretty hard. Yeah, it lifts up, but we got the stabilizers, and we got a real good suspension setup on this thing where it does not want to tip. Like, doing stuff like that, that's a death wish in the normal Pigeon. This one, it's just a little uncontrollable, but you can regain control and keep driving. Also, look at that tachometer. Isn't it a thing of beauty? It goes up to 14, basically. 14,000 revs, but the engine sounds the same as any other engine, which is always kind of funny. Whoa! That's not the Pigeon's fault. That is not the Pigeon's fault. Fuel tank rupture, so we don't have much fuel left, but I'm pretty sure we can keep driving. Now, with the stabilizer slightly damaged, you see it does want to tip over a little bit more, but that suspension just does a really good job of keeping it upright. And I know it said fuel tank ruptured, but it doesn't seem like it ruptured that bad because we're barely losing any fuel. It is not driving perfectly, though. I will say that now. So I'm going to go ahead and just crash it and reset it and move on to the SBR4. And I want to take a look at the diesel one because to me, having a car that looks this sporty with this kind of engine configuration and then having a diesel engine just sounds weird. So a rear-wheel driven SBR4 with this twice right there, that threw me off. A 2.5 liter bi-turbo diesel engine. This car offers great torque from the start and can pull more than you think. And black's kind of a boring color, so how about we go with that blue? Like there's a lot of blues that look the same, but that's the one I want. Super chromey blue. Go! Yeah, it's pretty slow. I mean, I'm used to the fast SBR4s. This one, it doesn't feel that fast at all. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing could lose in a drag race behind a sporty version of an Ibishu. I could totally see that happening because it just doesn't feel that fast. But it feels fast enough to crash it over here. Let's get a little bit of air maybe. Nope, no air, just right into the rock. And of course, with the engine back there, that front zone just crumples up. Engine still fine, and it could actually still put down power if the wheels could touch the ground, I think, maybe. No. Maybe not. For a second, I thought so, but I think driveline's broken. I wasn't reading the text. You can tell. Anyways, next, we're going to be taking a look at another SBR4. And I wanted to look at the Nomi 500R. When Hirochi announced the SBR4, Japanese tuner Nomi was anticipated by the public to release a monster of a car. The Hirochi Nomi 500R was the answer, powered by a tuned Stage 2 twin-turbocharged 2.5-liter F4. The 500R was extremely fast and was modified by Nomi to have rear-wheel drive. Why would you do that? Why would you take an all-wheel drive car and make it rear-wheel drive only? Like, it's not a dedicated drag car, so I don't know. Anyways, they took and made it rear-wheel drive with Folk ET73 wheels and large brakes. Only 250 500Rs were built. Each one came with a plaque showing which number it was, and all Nomi 500R owners were offered 2 days of advanced driving instruction at Hirochi Raceway. Unfortunately, I did not get that fancy instruction at Hirochi Raceway, so I'm gonna drive it and crash. Now this is what I'm used to feeling when I drive an SBR4. It moves so bad that you gotta slam on your brakes before you know it. Alright, so the stock car got up to about 110 at the end of this road. Let's see what this one can do compared to that. A little bit faster, I would think, but I gotta slow down to make this turn. If you call that making it, I don't know if you really would. I mean, that was an impact. The door is now bashed in, so we might as well keep bashing it up. Just gotta keep tapping the side. Oh, that's a little bit harder than a tap. Radiator damaged. Let's tap the other side then, if I can. No. Okay, we're upside down. And the car's dead. Go ahead and reset it, and the next car we're going to be taking a look at is a Hirochi Sunburst, and I want to look at the 2.0 all-wheel drive CVT-R concept, because it's a fast car with a CVT, which just sounds so strange. A concept car combining a CVT transmission with a Stage 3 turbocharged 2-liter inline-4 and a lithium-ion battery to produce as much power as possible. Based on the Sport RS with race suspension and given SBR S2 wheels to handle high stress, the project was eventually canceled due to massive overheating problems and one of 3 concept cars catching fire during testing. So normally the problem with CVTs isn't that they catch fire, it's that they can't handle the torque that a lot of engines make. They're just not made for that. They're made for economy, which is why it's hilarious to have one on a race car. So how does it actually do? It's actually not bad to drive, and I don't know if it actually overheats. Like, I don't know if it's made to overheat like it says or not, but it is surprisingly fast, but still feels so weird to drive CVTs because it just keeps revving and revving and revving and revving and revving and revving, and it never shifts. So weird sounding. I mean, at least you get a little bit of a sound when you let off of the gas, and it almost sounds like you're shifting or something. But it's just CVTs, man. They are weird. But yeah, it's fast. So fast, in fact, that I am going to crash it at 100 miles per hour, and I'm not even going to have, that much space to get up to speed. Here we go. Can we still drive it? Sure. Will we? No. We're going to go on to the next one, which is another Sunburst, we're going to take a look at the 2.0 rear-wheel drive Cup RS description. Because right here it says the 2016 Cup version of the Sunburst, an RS turbocharged 2.0 Skyactiv G engine by Mazda. Like, shout outs to Mazda out of nowhere right there. Like, that's just kind of funny to me. All right, that's all there was for there. Next, we're going to be looking at the Bolide, and there's not too much here for the Bolide, you see, but I do like how hideous the 350 Classico is, which also has a paragraph of a description. Equipped with Coveta's 3.2-liter V8, the name of the 350 Classico is a bit misleading. Released for a short time in 1982, the Classico was the least popular and least produced Bolide out of all the models. Equipped with new quad custom tailpipes, the Classico did have more power than the stock 320, contrary to popular belief, and was overall a better car performance-wise. Performance didn't trump the car's looks, however. The exclusive Velluto Rosso paint and the Alder Royal wheels with white wall tires quickly ended its short production. Nicely equipped, the Classico even came with a handcrafted, luxurious wooden steering wheel made by Legno. Under 50 units of the Classico were produced now, making it the rarest and most collectible Bolide of all. So it just shows, buy the things nobody else buys because it'll become collectible. So you see those absolutely terrible white wall tires that just don't look right on this car, and this is a fancy steering wheel. But white walls on this car just look so wrong. And that paint job color also looks pretty wrong as well. Performance though, nothing special. We'll just do a quick crash, and by quick I mean really, really quick, because we're crashing already. Like, I feel like if I spawn up a car, I gotta crash it at least once. Just once. That's all. Anyways, next up, we're going to be taking a look at a D-Series. And I want to look at my favorite kind of D-Series. It's the D35 V8 4-wheel drive premium, which is just massive, massive vehicle. It's the flagship model of the D-Series lineup. The premium D35 had extra features the normal D35 didn't. A camper shell was added along with a bumper lip, hood deflector, and an improved interior for comfort. So this is like, give me everything on the vehicle you possibly can. That's what this one basically is, and I don't know why I wasn't spawning it up right there. Must have missed the button. And it's just so ridiculously massive. I love having a car that's this fat in video games. In real life, I would hate it. In video games, it's fun to have a massive vehicle. I mean, for some people, it's fun to have a massive vehicle in real life too, but nah, not for me. The smaller, the better in real life. Now let's go off-roading right here, right now. Let's fly a little. And that's it. Just a little. I'm trying to rush things up because I noticed the first half took quite some time. This video is starting to run pretty long. Also want to point out there's a D15 extended cab T-Rex, which is basically a Ford Raptor clone in the D-Series style. Thought that was pretty neat. All right, so let's head out of here. Next up is the Roamer. Roamer also has a Raptor style version of it, which is kind of funny. Like, why hasn't Ford done that? That'd be cool. Make a Raptor SUV, but no. They haven't for some reason. Anyways, also want to take a look at the V8 4-wheel drive TRC Supercharged, which is like the best handling SUV ever. Tuner TRC is known for their extreme modifications to street vehicles, turning anything into a beastly racing car. The Roamer was no exception, and TRC pushed it to the limits, lowering the suspension, equipping drag tires, removing excess weight, and putting a high-performance radiator and adding a massive supercharger to the 4.5-liter V8. The TRC Roamer is the family-carrying supercar you didn't know you wanted. And I know it talks a lot about the speed, but the handling is actually very, very good as well. You also can see if you zoom in, TRC right there in the back. Like, it's sleeper status right there, basically. Just a little logo that says TRC, and that's it. Little do you know, it's fast! I mean, you can kind of tell it's lower. That's a little suspicious. But that's not to say people don't just lower their SUVs just cause. I mean, heck, if people lowered the SUVs earlier, they would have made crossovers before crossovers were a thing. Basically, it's basically. I mean, really, crossovers are based on cars, and they're more car than SUV, but whatever. I mean, from an aesthetics perspective, it'd basically be a crossover. 100 miles per hour, that's a crashing speed! You know, from the front, it almost looks like a D-Series. Like, I wouldn't know that was a Roamer unless I saw the back after it crashed. Anyways, we're going to take one more Roamer out, and that is the V8 4-wheel drive Delta. One of the least known Roamer variants was the Delta model. Intended for extreme off-roading and anything thrown at it, a heavy-duty dually rear axle with off-road suspension was fitted. That means we have a dually on an SUV, which is always fun to me. Like, I don't ever see that in real life. Anyways, it was fitted with a bull bar, was welded to the frame, unnecessary parts were removed, the roof rack came fully equipped, and the 4.5-liter V8 was supercharged. Unpopular with both buyers and critics, the Delta was soon pulled from production. The Delta was just misunderstood. It was a dually SUV. Who doesn't want that secretly? Well, that's definitely a downside that the tires already popped. And we're stuck. Extreme off-roading, man. Come on. Don't get stuck. I mean, you still got 7 tires. Oh, of course, the one that broke, though, was one of the fronts. I thought it was a rear at first. I figured, oh, a rear one pops? No big deal. Front one pops? Well, that's kind of annoying. Doing pretty good for extreme off-roading. It's not that extreme, though. We're just cruising along, which can be done with even like a rally car, but I just like, dually SUV. Oh, man, what happened to my front bumper? When'd you fall off? All right, that'll do it for that. Next up is the T-Series, and I just want to point out there's a T65 RAM utility, which has the RAM pre-attached to it, which is a nice convenience to have. Then we're going to go on to the 8-Series, and the 8-Series has a bunch of i6 versions. So if you want to see how powerful the i6 is, well, you could use a City Trans i6 Cargo and stuff it full of stuff and try to drive it. There's also this one, the H15 Custom, which has a flame paint job, which never looks good on any vehicle. This van is no exception. But it's a lowered, more powerful van customized for speed. It sits on Alder Power Push wheels. Power Rush would be a cooler name, though, wouldn't it, than Power Push? Alder Power Push wheels with lowered suspension and powered by a Stage 2 supercharged 4.5-liter V8 linked to a rear-wheel drive configuration. I botched that up. Custom flame decals are along the side, giving it a hot rod look. So we're going to finish it up on a hot rod van. Yep. And what I should do is make a cool thing that like shows all the vehicles that were in the video. That's what we're going to do. But first, hot rod van did not crash the way I expected it to. And for some reason, it is not going left. Come on, flame on! Faster! It's so slow. See, flames, man, they're bad luck. Let's get this big old slow van, but it has flames on it. It's still slow, but it has flames on it. Doesn't matter, it's still slow. And now it's dead. So that will do it. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of get a cool collection of all the cars. And until next time, this has been WhyBeAre. I'll see ya. I had a great idea of how to cause as much lag as possible. We put all the cars in a line, and then we ram it with the T-Series. That should cause us unbelievable amounts of lag. And I want the T-Series to be able to actually push through these and make it look dramatic, because with this speed, there's no way it normally could. So I'm going to just go ahead and pull up the menu right here. We're going to put the gravity to something lower. I'm thinking maybe Mercury. And then we can unfreeze physics a little bit faster now that everything is set up. So 16 times slow-mo and plow through the cars. Maybe even 8 times slow-mo, a little bit faster. By the way, I don't know why that one's on fire. Like, it was just sitting there. It's like time to combust. I'm just like, okay, you do whatever you want, man. You can combust. And even with the lowered gravity, it's still kind of coming to a stop. It did not work at all, but it was worth a shot. I came out at a bad angle. I could try it again, but I don't think I'm going to bother, because that is already killing my computer as it is. So until next time, this has been WhyBeAre. I'll see ya. Oh my God, fire is loud.